Hunting Island is South Carolina's most popular state park, with over 1 million visitors a year. Further, it features 5,000 acres of preserved wildlands and over 5 miles of open beach accessible to the general public. But if it is so populous, is it really worth the visit? So I pulled my Jeep up into the front yard to start packing it. And this was going to be a 3-day trip, so we threw all the important food right there in the side. And of course, I didn't bother to touch anything, except for a small handful of Doritos, but that's excusable. Introducing the lineup, here is my kid brother, that's William. Further, since this is a family trip, someone else would be paying us a visit. That's my mother, hello. And don't worry, fan favorite is back here, my dog, Iona. Hello, cutie. I took her out for a quick walk, and from there she was ready to hop on for the adventure. She knew we were packing up, so she was eager to go. God, I love that dog. We'd like to thank our subscriber, TescoFanBoy, for giving us this wonderfully dressed duck. This is the Jurassic Park series Tubbs duck, Robert Muldoon. I really like his style, and I enjoy his profile. But now, let me show you how this beauty works. This little fella looks great on the hood of any Jeep or vehicle, for that matter. He can even make you your own pizza dinner. Nice. Best of all, he has frickin' laser vision! But hey, thank you again, TescoFanBoy, for this gift. We're not sponsored by Tubbs by any means, but it's a solid product. Go out and get one today if you want. So from there, I loaded up my kid brother, myself, my dog, and the new Robert Muldoon duck, and we pulled out and took off on our trip. Now, here's where we get started with our timestamps. No worries if you want to skip around, find the content that appeals to you most. When you are roughly 30 minutes away from the campsite, you'll be going through Beaufort, South Carolina, which is a really beautiful place to visit. Further, when you get across the Port Royal Shoal, it's absolutely breathtaking, and I do mean that. It's an incredible sight to behold, and from here on out, you'll be skipping across several different islands. It is also really worth it to make sure to stop at several of the islands on the side of the road and look at what's around you, including these marshes, because there's so much to see and do in the likes of St. Helena, Fripp Island, Harbor Island, and Natal. Before the final bridge, there is the actual Hunting Island sign, which is nice, because otherwise you drive straight into the Atlantic Ocean. And there it is, our destination, Hunting Island. Eventually you'll come up right here on the actual entrance box, which is cool. Be sure to say hi to the cat. His name is Fifi, because you have to pay a fee. From there, stop by the visitor center if you're like us and make sure that you're checked in and registered to actually camp at these sites. It's a pretty easy walk. They have a very simple boardwalk to get in. And here it is before you, the actual visitor center. Pretty nice. You want to get one of these, which is your actual guest pass. Just put it up there so you can actually get to the primitive campsite. So in this case, we were at number 2, so we parked on South Beach, and then we just walk up this footpath. Also, be sure to check for one-way traffic to your right, cross this road, and then bang, you're gonna hit it right here. Once you crest this second actual embankment, you come to it. And here it is. This is campsite number 2, and I'll be honest, we had an incredible privilege because no one was in 1 or 3 either, so we got all of them to ourselves. Thanks to the fact that I had my kid brother with me, it was very easy to set up our wall tent this time. Again, this is in the Lacnac by Cabela's, and this time, unlike previous adventures, it was fully waterproofed and had a rain fly. From there, our very special guest showed up. There she is. Hello, Mother. In her entourage were her good friends Jane the dog
Bowman
and Bowman. I can tell you now that compared to other episodes, this video will be far more dog-centric, but hey, I'm cool with that. I stay warm at night. From there, we went about the process of building a fire before it got dark. My kid brother here, William, decided to take the initiative, and then I got into the heavy duty of cutting wood all day. Really, it was not so bad. There's plenty around us that we didn't have to cut. and the dogs just sat around and watched as the fire built up slowly. From there we put water on to boil, and then we added the miracle of Hormel's chili. Remember, with Hormel, it's 15 grams of protein per meal. The rest here is rather an American camping tradition. We put the sausages on the sizzle and toasted the buns. I don't have to fake it for the camera, that's tasty. Even with the bun, there were still dishes that had to be cleaned, which is no sweat. And then at the very end of the day, we had the opportunity to jump back into the Atlantic Ocean. Best of all, there was really no one there, so we had our private beach access and could just hop in and have a good time. Though keep in mind there's no lifeguards, so please folks, play it safe. Though with all of that said, I can't deny that it was an incredible privilege, and frankly, that water was like a jacuzzi. To conclude, it's very hard to be upset when this is the sound that you get to go to sleep to, and you have a private beach all to yourself. It really is a form of ecstasy to wake up on Hunting Island and have the actual sun coming through across the Atlantic Ocean on the east coast of the United States through the pine and palm. At the 6 o'clock hour, it's incredible to have this vast landscape available to you, all alone. This is roughly 5 miles straight with no one on it. But enough of the romantics. At 6:30 in the morning, this is what it was like to wake up inside of our tent. At least Mom feels loved. And from there we turn on the heat, add the instant coffee, and enjoy this liquid libation.
That's good in the morning.
Yeah, she's right. By about 8 o'clock, the entire troop was up, so we took the dogs for a walk on the beach. I'd like to say that for Iona the dog, this was her first time to actually see the Atlantic Ocean. I'd also like to say at this time that she probably drank 5 gallons worth of the Atlantic Ocean. I really tried to stop her, but she's got a mind of her own. Another really fascinating sight to see is actually here on the southernmost tip of the island, is where they used to have the old parking lot and boardwalk for Hunting Island. It's incredible because it's so empty, and it really just gives you some time to yourself. Hidden within some of this man-made ruin was a fire hydrant, which the dogs particularly enjoyed. With that in mind, we took a family picture with our 3 dogs and their beloved fire hydrant. Isn't that nice? After a few miles, we turned it around and walked back down the beach towards our camp on South Beach to finally start on breakfast. That being said, it's a hard place to want to leave. It is beautiful in the morning to wake up to this. Paradise has a name, and it is indeed, my friend, Hunting Island. On this particular morning, we decided to give my mother her favorite camping breakfast. That would be a flapjack, or the more beloved term, pancake. Now, I'm not going to pretend that these were restaurant-grade pancakes, but that said, you gotta just love something about those burnt edges with a little bit of that secret sauce. Thank you, Miss Buttersworth. We didn't hold back and we decided to dive right in, which was great, except for one minor problem.
I need a spoon to take a bite.
Always good to share a meal with someone you love.
If the viewer noticed, I'm eating out of the dog's bowl right now. Waste not, want not.
Fear not, dear viewer, the dogs got to eat like royalty too. Never leave man's best friend behind. At that point, it was time to load up the car and start exploring the island. We had it packed up pretty quick. 3 people, 3 dogs. I would like to say right now that this is the most interesting drive I've ever had. Not because it's in a beautiful environment, but because I've never had 3 people and 3 dogs in the same car. Take a look in the back. Hi, Mom. Yeah, that's good. Thank you. Our first stop was the Hunting Island Nature Center, which is small but really nice. You get this beautiful look over the almost Atlantic Ocean down the boardwalk, and then you're inside here with a variety of reptiles and amphibians. Here are the turtles, Lieutenant Dan and Buddy. Further, we have the two small-scale alligators, Shrimp and Grits. And finally, we have a corn snake with a name I don't know. It's also really nice to come out to the Boardwalk and Fishing Pier to get a look at what is Hunting Island, Fripp's Island, and then the embankments leading out into the Atlantic Ocean. So nice is it to come out here and get a little bit of sun and see the world around you. Moving onward, it's also worth your time to visit the Marsh Boardwalk Trail. This is a really great visit. Not only do you get to see a marsh, but you actually get to see a great deal of wildlife, really well preserved and also hidden away. It's not the most popular area for people to come and visit, so it really is ideal to come out and be one with nature here. Even better, it's close by to everything else on the island. Here, looking into the marsh, you can see a variety of small-scale shore crabs. Going a little deeper in as well, you're also able to see a lot more of the natural wildlife and nature surrounding you, including the likes of palm, fronds, and of course, marsh. To my great surprise was how great Hunting Island was for birding. Here we see a male cardinal, followed by which his female partner can be seen nearby. Further, here's a Carolina woodpecker. It really was surprising because of all the birds, these were actually the thickest grouping to find in the area. Here in this palm tree was an actual blue jay. Although they're very territorial, he really was a friendly character to run into. Although this wasn't in the same area, here is a herring, which I also thought was worth sharing in this section. It really is worth your time to come out here and explore, especially if you're a fan of wildlife. Please come out to the Marsh Boardwalk and explore.
Just real quick as we're walking back, I'd like to say that please remember when you come out to Huntington, it's more than just coming out to see the beach. There's so many lovely areas to come out and hike, and there's so many little coves for life. It's fun to see the smaller side of the visitor center and the zoo, but really, one of my favorites right now has actually been just coming out on this trail because everywhere else is packed, but right out here, it's quiet, it's reserved, and there's plenty of parking. It's such a beautiful area. You have a fresh breeze, so you don't really sweat, and it's just nice to be isolated in this environment. It's just lovely. Take a look.
On our way out of the Marsh Boardwalk, we really thought we were done looking at all the wildlife until we ran into this curious little fellow. Right before you here is a swamp fox. This is a red fox to be a little more specific. Zooming in, you can actually see his face here, covered in mud. He'd been diving in looking for food in the day. This had to be my absolute favorite find of the entire trip, and it was such a privilege to see him in his natural environment. We tried to remain as respectful as possible, and slowly we backed away and let him go back into his general habitat. Before you here is the original Hunting Island Lighthouse. This item was originally constructed in 1859. Before you is the actual park, where it is still preserved and taken care of, including the original location of the caretaker's house and several of the storage and work sheds within the area. This particular lighthouse is one of the last that is able to be toured within South Carolina. Unfortunately, at this time of filming, there was maintenance going on and we couldn't go inside because it was closed. Another historical fact to point out is that this actual lighthouse was reconstructed in 1875 and later dropped in its current location in 1889 before eventually being retired in the early 1900s. This is really a fun visit for the whole family and there's parks nearby. We decided to get our family photo here, but eventually it was time to leave Hunting Island and move on to more to explore. Just behind Hunting Island is the island of St. Helena, and here is the home of a historical location known as the Fort Freemont Preserve. Take a look. Just going down the road a little bit is the actual car park, so to pull in and get comfortable. It's fairly well shaded. Before you here are the original battery emplacements and fortifications for Fort Freemont. This particular fort was built in response to the 1898 Spanish-American War. The level of interaction and visitation here is really incredible. You can walk the entirety of the original facilities. Better yet, you can actually enter into the fortifications. Although they are poorly lit, they are relatively safe. In this case, we're walking through the original guard and munitions rooms before going up. Please bear in mind that if you're going to explore these, you do need to be careful and bring with you a torch. Now, you can also go up on top of the fortifications here, and what really is interesting is that you can see the full field of fire that used to command the Port Royal Shoal. You really gain an appreciation for the sheer size and scale of this emplacement when you come up to the very top. Looking down, you can actually see where the original batteries would have been placed, all three of them here. They really were massive and took roughly 22 men to fully man. Going to the opposite side as well, again, it's just a comparison of scale. A shocking fact we discovered is that this actual concrete emplacement you see before you is home to the original steam generators. Pipes would feed the water down into it, and then that from there would power the elevators feeding the guns, and the lights in the area as well. This really is an incredible facility and historical landmarker to explore, because you need to keep in mind that this is not a national or state park. It is taken care of by the county as well as by generous donations and, of course, volunteers. So kudos to them. This facility is also really just beautiful to walk through and enjoy. Although it's small, it's not a bad place to come to at all. It also has a beautiful pavilion which can be rented out for parties, and I can attest to the fact that several have been in the area. Even more fascinating is the fact that just directly across the water is the home of the United States Marine Corps, Parris Island. The final facility and fortification to explore right here is the home of the rapid fire guns. It really is incredible to see these as well, because the brick before you is nearly all original. And please bear in mind that in the 1890s and 1900s, these trees were not here. This area would have held a commanding presence and field of fire to protect the likes of the ports in Beaufort, the Port Royal Shoal, and Parris Island. And just like the other emplacement, you can walk into these and explore them. Although this housing is a bit smaller, it's still worth it to come in and touch a piece of history. Though it's unfortunate that it's been touched by graffiti over the years. Please also take the opportunity to stop by and visit the Visitor Center. The volunteers there are very friendly, and it's incredibly informative and well maintained. As a final note, I'd like to say and ask you to remember that this is still an archaeological site needing of funding and protection. Please come out here, pay your respects, and study a piece of American history. Not even an hour away is Parkers Ferry Road, home of the Scar Alternate, also known as the Pon Pon Chapel of Ease Scar Alternate. This is really an incredible place to visit. Just turn towards the sign and make your way down the Scar Alternate here. Pon Pon itself is not accessible by vehicle, however, you can walk this facility by foot. This particular church was built in the year of 1732 and was sometime rebuilt in 1822 with the brick that you see before you. This is an incredible marker of historical significance to start your trip on, but please be respectful of this hallowed ground. Parkers Ferry Road itself is an incredibly straight shot forward, and it will lead you directly to the Edisto River, which is a very welcome visit. There are several routes to visit on the side of the road as well, though please bear in mind that many of these are owned by other people. Please do not trespass on private property and hunting grounds. That being stated, there are still plenty of places that you can go off-roading on, including as seen here, this beautiful mud hole.
Good boy, I got you. I got you.
He's a little nervous.
The corridor of trees and nature surrounding you is really a beautiful sight, and it will guide you all the way there to the Edisto River.
So here's a really neat spot that we found. Now I have no guarantee if we can make this, but at the same time, I am determined to come out here and take a look and see if it's possible. Oh yeah, it's doable. This is doable.
And yes, as I stated, it was easily doable. From the side of the road, it didn't look so easy. But that being said, just take your time and work your way down towards the Edisto River, because from here, you have access to essentially a jeeping paradise. And I do mean paradise, my friends. Take a look at what's available. Now, we didn't have a lot of time, so we broke for the tree line and decided to navigate through a slightly slower terrain. That being said, this really was a fun area to be in, and you can only imagine how crazy it would get out here once the Edisto floods at the right time of season. This area is fairly tight in its confines, however, it is well traveled. Go ahead and follow several of the routes set up for you and explore. It's an incredible time to be out here. But that said, please measure it with an air of caution. The confines here can get tight quickly. With that in mind, please come out and visit. It's a great time. Judging by the shot here, you might know what happens next.
As you can see, we definitely got stuck. The hubris got the best of us, so we're gonna hook up to a tree and see if we can get out.
And thus begins the very fun process of self-recovery. I started by opening up the hood and cranking on power to the winch. From there I gave it some slack in the line and tied to the most available tree in the area. We hoped that by angling the cable we could pull ourselves out a bit more adjacent, but unfortunately we just slipped deeper into the mud on the first go-round. So we screwed out the reliable shovel, and then we threw in some recovery boards, which promptly just disappeared in the mud. Isn't that exciting? Gotta love it when that progress goes to nothing. So we went ahead and adjusted our cable at that point and decided to try and go a little more straightforward. We also went about clearing out some of the debris and tried to give ourselves a bit more traction under the wheel. The dream of better traction, however, was a farce because we just kept throwing our recovery boards and doing burnouts in the mud. But eventually she finally popped out and got some ground under her. After moving about what felt like 15 yards, she finally hit solid ground and got back on the road. I can't pretend it was our best recovery by any means, but it was a recovery.
That was the messiest that we've ever had it, but I'd like to thank my kid brother who's behind the camera right now. It's his first time jeeping with us, and it's his first recovery. And he did a great job, not just manning the camera, but being by my side.
At the end of the day, we did get to do the entirety of this ditch. However, we left a permanent mark in the road and did it at a speed roughly 30 miles per hour slower than I wanted.
This song was really the first one that came up on cue, and I think it just fits the moment. Just look at the team back there. Yeah, it's a good one, isn't it? Yeah, thank you, Disney.
After that recovery, it was time for a different form of recovery. Nature provided me with a very free shower. I can't deny that I just hopped right in and went for it. And the whole family had themselves a really good time for our last night out there at the beach. And again, we had it all to ourselves. A really cool find about this section here on South Beach is that there were several homes for the loggerhead turtle nesting sites. This was really an incredible find, and it was super fun to be there, but please be respectful of their natural environment. After washing up significantly and demudding, we decided to make our way back to camp. It's hard to say goodbye, but at the same time, it was welcoming and refreshing to actually hop in the ocean one last time. It became dark at camp fairly quickly, and we decided to put on a fire for our last meal of our visit at Hunting Island. In this case, my brother was making hobo dinner, which is just essentially meat, tubers, and then tinfoil, wrapped up and thrown directly onto the fire with a healthy amount of lipids and salt. William tended to the fire for the course of roughly an hour and a half, making sure that the potatoes and meat were properly cooked up. And then, once the embers were hot enough, we threw them directly onto the fire to cook in a little more deeply. After what felt like an eternity, we finally had dinner ready, and soon we began to indulge.
Okay, so it's a little too hot to really enjoy right now. But I'm not going to deny that I already know it's going to hit the spot, and it does. Especially because we've got this little beauty right here. Hello. I'd like to thank my brother for putting this together. He, one, pulled me out of a ditch, and two, made me eat food. This makes me happy, and we've had a great day. Don't you feel that way, She?
Absolutely.
All right. Good night!
By 11 o'clock, we watched the stars in the sky rise and the fire slowly fade away into the night. Our time at Hunting Island had surprisingly been a phenomenal time.
Well, hello there, dear viewer. We hope you've enjoyed being with us today here at Huntington Island. I know we as a family have had this exceptionally good time. And it's so good that you came along too. Not only is Huntington Island a great place to come and see the ocean and hang out at the beach, but its wildlife is breathtaking. And it's surprisingly a great environment as well for people who enjoy birding. Go figure. We also found it to be extremely family friendly, historically riveting, and again, all in all, beautiful. But now, my friends, are you ready for the Eager Beaver Hour? I really have to say that I'm almost concerned about how much fun we as a family and as individuals had here at Huntington Island. We really had an experience that, frankly, for most viewers, you probably wouldn't get normally. We stayed at South Beach, which in general is only reserved for large groups and corporate meetings, which, fortunately, we just might have had. That being said, most people will actually be staying on the North Beach, and where you saw a lot of that film and footage going on, is a lot more crowded and is more typical of your experience. That being said, the amenities here are fantastic. Again, picnic tables, clothesline hooks, a variety of fireplaces, and all of this open space for yourself. Best of all is the beach isn't even a full football field away, yet you're protected and you have it all to yourself. It's really your own private island. As always, dear viewer, you might know we preach safety on this channel. If you're gonna come off-roading out here, please consider bringing a jack, a winch, and your recovery boards. As you might have seen in our video, we got stuck, so we're incredibly lucky that we actually managed to get out because of these wonderful tools. Please be careful out there and judge risks by your own merit and ability. And again, thank you for bearing with us there. Again, I'd really like to emphasize how beautiful this place is. And it's such a privilege for us to have all of this area to ourselves. We'd like to thank you, dear viewer, for coming along. And further, we'd like to thank the great state of South Carolina and its related park services for inviting us out here. Truly, this is a beautiful place to see wildlife in its own true environment, as well as to be surrounded by such natural beauty as the forestry here in this subtropical climate, as well as the beauty of the Atlantic Ocean, which is only a few feet away from us. Being out here has been so much fun. We've had such a lovely time. And as always, if you like what you've seen here, please like and subscribe. Thank you again, dear viewer, and please have a good day.
As always, until next time, dear viewer, this is the Eager Beaver signing off.